I'm Colin Zhu. Good afternoon, right? It's afternoon for you guys, right? So I'm Colin Zhu. Cheryl, or Dr. Cheryl, has been very, I'm honored to be able to be invited to your PlantPod meeting. And she told me a lot about this meeting and what it represented and what each and every one of you members came to, to glean from in terms of whether it's plant-based lifestyle, healthy cooking, education, things like that. So I just want to go into a brief intro, and then I guess we'll go into a little Q&A afterwards. So basically, I work as a family practitioner. I'm an osteopath, a DO, and basically, I've been traveling around a little bit. I work currently as a traveling physician, or a locum tenens physician, and I've been doing this for a little bit more than 2 years. I pretty much kind of like, if you guys don't know what a traveling physician is or a locum tenens doctor does, it's kind of like a substitute teacher for when the main teacher isn't there. So I pretty much fill in temporary spots, whether they're recruiting a doc or whether, someone's sick or, just want to take a vacation. So I kind of fill those shoes and kind of take a back seat. And I enjoy doing this actually because it allows me to, be able to contribute as much as I can and maximize my skills. So I do that as a family practitioner. I also have, I have a huge passion in terms of food and nutrition. So a little bit about me is I studied at the Institute for Integrative Nutrition in Manhattan. It's a health coaching school. And I also studied health supportive and plant-based culinary arts and also in Manhattan. And I pretty much did all that education back around 2011, 2012. And some of you might be scratching your head and kind of thinking, what does a doc, plan to do with culinary skills? I get a lot of, is it just a, glorified hobby? And it's actually not. It's actually very purposeful. And I use the education to be able to teach healthcare professionals, doctors, individuals, community members like yourself. And I do workshops, public speaking events, demonstrations, and really just talking about, food as medicine, is basically the general theme. I don't really advocate a specific diet per se. My rule of thumb is, to cook more and to pretty much eat a whole, real, plant food, basically, and just in general, just to eat more plants. It doesn't matter where on the spectrum you are, whether you're an omnivore, carnivore, thinking about going vegan, vegetarian, things like that. There's a lot of evidence and research has, accumulated over the years to show that as long as you eat more plant-based foods, for example, legumes, leafy greens, lentils, whole grains, all these different wonderful things, you basically are able to prevent basically around 80% of most chronic disease processes. And, with that in conjunction with a healthy lifestyle, you'll be able to live a fuller life. So I've been doing that. And also I just recently published a book called Thrive Medicine. And it's basically my representation and expression of myself in terms of, getting out to the audience members in terms of, what it is that you want to achieve in life. What is it, the questions that, to define who you are, and, whether you're asking those questions of, am I contributing to the world in some way? What is, my passion, and how do I go through that? And it's kind of like, what is that actual energy? What is that driving force? And so I conceptualized it and came up with the term Thrive Medicine. And so I just did that. And I pretty much, I'm pretty down to earth guy, and I love speaking to people. So that's where I get my, thriving energy from, is really connecting people with people like yourselves. So that's pretty much me in a nutshell. You guys are a little bit muted.
Yeah, I'm muted. Okay,
oh, okay. Thank you.
There we go. Sorry for the wiggling there.
Yeah.
So, Colin, where are you working right now?
I'm calling you guys from New Jersey. I was born and raised in Jersey, and pretty much I've been in this area for pretty much most of my life. And in addition, working has really gotten me to travel. So school, traveling, and training, I've been able to kind of like live throughout like 8 states. So, but I'm mostly from Jersey.
And where all have you worked in your travels?
So my traveling assignments can range anywhere from, I did a short assignment with an Indian health tribe in North Las Vegas. I've worked with the VA in New Orleans, Louisiana. I've also worked with community health refugees out in Seattle, downtown Seattle. I worked a little bit in the public department in Santa Cruz, California. So I have a really diverse, various type of assignments. And the purpose of that is when I came out of training, I didn't really have anything that I was, set on doing. I wasn't really gung-ho about being employed in, a group or hospital system. And locums is a great vehicle in terms of just kind of, going and see what is out there. So it's kind of like, in a way I describe it to people, it's kind of like dating jobs, and you never really, marry, all the different ones in between. You kind of find the right one and, things like that. So until that happens, I really enjoy the work that I do. So.
All right. Well, if anybody has any questions for him, we actually have a microphone up here so that he will be able to hear you well. So anybody have any questions about what and actually, can you talk about the chef doc just a little bit too?
Oh, yeah. So the Chef Doc is basically an online platform. I created it in January of 2017. So it's a little bit over a year now. And basically what it is, it's a social / lifestyle wellness type of platform. And my goal with it is to be able to offer as many resources as I can for the public, to be able to learn anything from food as nutrition to cooking tips to self-improvement, self-empowerment, things like that. And I'm a big firm believer as, being a role model and being a community leader. And I feel like a lot of general practice practitioners, family, internal pediatricians, in my belief, we have a kind of like a duty in terms of, being that kind of role model. And everything that I talk about is what I apply in my own daily life. And so, it's on many different platforms. Facebook, I have my own website, YouTube, I have a YouTube channel. And I do anything from writing my own articles to making my own videos. And it's been very enjoyable. I'm not, an expert in any of it. I learn as I go. So hopefully, and I've gotten a lot of, good, feedback so far. So it's pretty much another tool for public to be able to glean from. And I find that to be very effective when I can go beyond the one-on-one counseling in an office setting, because as many of you guys know, you don't really have much time to talk with your doctor. It's pretty much, hey doc, this is hurting, or I have this, and he just looks at you up and down. Actually, he probably looks at his computer up and down and then looks at you for 2 seconds and then gives you a script. So that kind of outlet for me, the Chef Doc actually represents where, I can talk to more and connect to more of my audience members and patients and clients alike.
Okay. Great. Anybody have questions for Colin? Oh, we've got one here.
When you talk to your patients or people that really need to change or have some ailment, what methods or statements do you make to help them understand that a plant-based diet is good and get them to accept that rather than just wanting to take a prescription?
Sure. What is your name?
My name's Bob.
Oh, hi, Bob. So that's a great question. So basically the question is, how do you kind of, in a way, not really convert someone, but if someone has like an interest or they're curious about a plant-based lifestyle. So what I do is that if it happens in a office type setting, and they're curious about it. They want to make changes. They don't really know, what to do. I usually just tell them that, here are what I have observed, read about, research, that, a plant-based lifestyle is able to do, X, Y, and Z, whether it's terms of health benefits, whether it's improving, your mood, weight management, things like that. And when they are able to understand, what it can do for them, not just in terms of a health goal, because a lot of people, everyone is very intelligent. No one's really, quote unquote stupid. Everyone has a general idea that eating well and moving and losing weight, generally speaking, leads towards a healthful lifestyle. But it's really about, what is it that they want to get from that kind of lifestyle, So I rephrase it and reframe it in terms of, do you want to see, your granddaughter graduate from college? Do you want to live long enough, to see, your son and daughter, have grandchildren? Do you want to, live long enough to be able to, visit X number of countries? Whatever it is, it's, you customize it in a way where you want to be able to get to the heart of the issue, figure out what they enjoy, what are they happy with, and honestly, it doesn't matter whether you are, homeless on the street or you're a multi-billionaire CEO. Health basically is the most important thing. And if you're chronically sick, you're not going to be able to, enjoy the money you have, enjoy the house you're in, enjoy the environment, enjoy the relationships that, all those different things outside of you want to be able to enjoy if you are not in, a healthful state. And so, I use that to be able to articulate and convey the fact that, if you're able to get that on your side, then you can achieve and do all the things that you love to do more easily, and to be able to do it with more vitality and more energy. And so that's how I go about it.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Oh. All right. Break a leg, Dan.
Hi there.
Hey.
Hi. Over there we go.
Here, I'll help you can talk.
Right. My name is Dan. I'm also an osteopathic physician here in the area.
Hi, Dan.
Hi. As far as your experiences you've had as far as healthcare systems, I know one of the things that we've been frustrated with is we seem to know what the answer is to addressing a lot of chronic diseases without using medications as our first line therapy. And it's like the current model is backwards.
Sure.
I know patients, they go into the hospital and they think they're eating healthy food, and I wouldn't eat it.
Okay, I'm glad.
How do we address that? Do you see any ways that we can make strides I mean, we've made big strides in the past couple of years already, but it still seems awfully slow.
Are you asking that question from a physician point of view or a patient point of view or a different point of view? Like, how would you phrase that? Like, what point of view are you asking that?
I would say from a patient standpoint, because they want to be healthy. I think of pretty much every patient I've talked to wants to be healthier.
Yeah, no, great question. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, so I would say, obviously our healthcare model currently is not the best. I think the last statistic I read was, I think by 2020 or 2025, the gross domestic product of our economy, healthcare would have taken about 20% of that, And so that's like 1/5 of the entire economy, whereas a lot of different, first world, westernized, countries pay a lot less. And so, what is it, this has been, a question that's been asked a million different times. So in terms from a patient's point of view, a patient, number one, needs to want that. Okay, so it comes to basic economics. They need to demand that. They need to want better. They need to demand more from their general practitioner, family practitioner, their primary care physician. And ask, I, want to, achieve more. I want to learn more. Give me the resources. Are there, community workshops? Are there group meetings such as something like this? Are there, where we can kind of gather, connect ideas, exchange ideas, to be able to further the conversation. And I think meetings like this is incredible because, I'm sure when this all started, you kind of walked in and you're like, oh my God, I didn't know so many people would actually show up. I thought I was the only one here, what I'm saying? So, so it's basically when you have that kind of gathering, then you have those mutual and common interests together, you can further the conversation, ask, your family practitioner, what more, can you guys offer? And if they don't have anything or their hands are kind of tied, then you kind of have to kind of move on and either go to the next group, the next hospital, talk to the administration. There's a lot of different hospital systems out there, like the Cleveland Clinic, is a great example. There's a lot of hospital systems on the West Coast, the East Coast. I know you guys are in the middle. I'm not too familiar, in the middle too much. But there's a lot of things where, you kind of have to find, the interest groups, the conversations, the people that are actually having these discussions. And this is where our current age of the internet, social media is so important because it's able to bridge the gap and connect us on a broader, more efficient, scale, to be able to connect online and have these conversations, and then say, hey, let's actually start a group. Let's actually, get together. Let's actually, hold these types of meetings. When you are banded together, you guys are definitely much, much more stronger. Then the next question is, what are the next steps? You know what I'm saying? Doing exactly what you're doing, being able to invite guest speakers and then have them share their thoughts is incredible. So you guys are actually doing, what, you're actually answering your own question. So does that answer? Yeah. You guys are doing great. So.
All right, this is Erin. She is the host of our meeting here.
Okay. Hi, Erin.
Oh, it's backwards. I run on caffeine, chaos, and cuss words.
Hi, Paul, I am an occupational therapist, and I've spent 20 years teaching people that small changes in daily activities can make a big impact on their lives. And now Cheryl and I now teach here at the university, and Cheryl and I are working together. We know the medical system is broken, but as far as educating future healthcare professionals to take on this challenge, it's been a struggle because, as you know, in there are accreditation standards that bind what we can teach in curricula, and and so I just didn't know. I mean, Cheryl's been a big advocate to work here at the university, and we're trying to sort of put an interprofessional kind of curriculum together that would deal with OT, PT, nursing, social work, our physician assistant program. We don't have a medical school here, but I just wasn't sure if you had any good models that you're aware of, that as we're sort of starting from ground zero here.
Yeah. Great question. So Cheryl and I are part of the American College of Lifestyle Medicine, and if you guys aren't familiar with that, for the healthcare professionals in the audience, it is a fantastic group to be a part of. I've been involved with them since around 2013. I've been working since the medical resident level. I've been on their professionals in training board as well, and being able to facilitate different things. So there are a couple of options. So that college has something called a lifestyle medicine education kind of curriculum. And I haven't looked into it too much, but I know that they focus on, how do you actually incorporate this into your own individual school model, school or professional model. There's also another organization you need to look up called the Institute of Lifestyle Medicine, and they also have a full curriculum via online, and I'm sure there's a lot of great academic points where you can use that to be able to incorporate. There's also, in terms of, if you're talking about like the patient model, the outpatient setting, there's the CHIP model, which has been really really fruitful in terms of, you know, patient outcomes and people getting better from all these different types of lifestyle changes. So I would probably start with those three first, and then kind of go from there.
We have, what, 2 CHIP facilitators and how many CHIP graduates today?
Chip.
One? All right. So yeah, so Beth here, Beth Bryant and I are both CHIP facilitators, and then our friend Ann has been doing a lot of cooking for CHIP and has been very active in helping teach participants a lot of those skills. So Bob has graduated from the program and joined us here.
You guys enjoyed it? Did you guys enjoy it from the program?
Yes, very much.
Excellent. That's good.
There's Ann's back there. There you go. There. Hi, Ann. All right. Can you talk a little bit about staying healthy while you travel? Because you do that a lot more than some of us, but we have some really extensive travelers here, and we've had some discussions about like how to eat when you travel, how to pack your food when you travel. What advice would you give there from a standpoint of moving all over the place, really?
Yeah. Great question. So it depends on what kind of lifestyle you want to live. So, you know, vegan, plant-based, you know, whether you're gluten-free, you know, all these different things obviously creates, you know, some sort of, you know, limitation and restriction. And then obviously you have to be mindful of, you know, crossing in and out of TSA, sometimes borders, sometimes, you know, immigration control. So it's been interesting, at least for me. I've been to about like 30 countries so far. And I finally was able to kind of touch the last continent. So I've been pretty excited about that. But it's a great question. I would probably say, in terms of food, if you are a person that likes to pack their own food, obviously opt for, you know, dried, you know, nuts and seeds. There's a lot of, I wouldn't recommend, you know, like those military packs or whatever that they, you know, freeze dry and all that stuff. I mean, you could, or you can kind of go for those space dry packs. But it's really about looking ahead. So if you know that you're traveling to a certain area, whether it's a different state within the in the continental US, or if it's in a different country, if you do a little bit of homework in terms of planning ahead and seeing what types of, you know, supermarkets are around, you know, the area that you're trying to, you know, visit, or, you know, have a vacation or have a conference or whatever, you know, then you could save a lot of time by going over there, picking up the items for yourself and preparing it for whether you're going on a hike or whether you are, you know, going to, you know, in the mountains, you know. So that's one thing I would recommend. Another thing too is, you know, always keep moving. You know, my favorite thing in the world, honestly, is just to take a walk. I actually, not intentionally, but when I was on the Vegas assignment, with the Indian Health clinic, they have their outpatient office on the reservation, and this is with the Paiute tribe. And it was really interesting because they have a circular track. It's all dirt, you know, it's just, you know, dirt and sand, and it's a very walkable track. And I estimated maybe 4 or 5 loops equal to a mile, right? And then the reservation and all the households were right next to the clinic. So what I would do is I would have lunch, right? And for those of you, you know, who have, you know, food coma, I mean, I get food coma after lunch. I find that the best way to curb that is to go for a walk immediately, you know, almost immediately, not immediately, you know, you don't want to, you know, end up, you know, vomiting all over the place, but, you know, right afterwards, like 10, 15 minutes afterwards, I go for a walk. And sure enough, not intentionally, I start to have people walk with me, right? So I start to have my, you know, nurse practitioner start walking with me. I start having the secretary, I started having the psychiatrist walk with me, I started having the pharmacist walk with me. It was a very all-inclusive clinic. So so when I travel, you know, that's the best way that I learn to explore, you know, a city, is by walking and jogging, actually. So I don't actually, when I travel, 70% of it is spontaneity and 30% of it is planned. I feel more gratified by, you know, not actually planning everything and then just going and seeing where the wind takes me, per se. So, so that's 2 things. And really, you know, hydration and rest, you know, everywhere you go. So, And definitely look at the CDC website for any, you know, possible vaccinations you may need. So, I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So when was the aha moment to do plant-based?
Yeah, for you.
Okay. Great question. So,
Oh.
Oh. You're back. Okay. Good.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So my aha moment was basically, so I grew up in a Chinese household, and we pretty much ate everything. So my aha moment pretty much came where I really wanted to maintain a long-term health status where I could have, you know, this kind of energy, have this kind of, you know, health status where, you know, I'm able to live, you know, a very healthy life. I didn't have, you know, overweight issues. I didn't have any like medical conditions that was like, you know what, I got to turn this around. I wasn't overweight that I had to turn this around. It really came to a point where I just started noticing and reading and, you know, just learning about how much a plant-based lifestyle just contributed. And I have a lot of family history of heart disease, of high blood pressure, of cholesterol. And I didn't want to go down that route, and I didn't want to be dependent on medications. And so once I started learning more about it, it just made sense. And being that, you know, we kind of ate a little bit of everything, most of our meals are very balanced. And so my transition to plant-based wasn't that difficult for me. I was able to kind of give up meat, you know, in that fashion. And, you know, I don't even have that, you know, those cravings. You know, sometimes I do in a blue moon, but, you know, it's, I don't punish myself if, you know, you would, you know, kind of cheat, you know, one day or not. So it's kind of like a transition. And that's kind of what I advise for patients, is that this is not going to be an overnight thing. It's going to be baby steps. It's going to be, you know, try one thing. I use the concept of crowding out as opposed to using the word diet. So diet, you're actually constricting and, you know, taking out something, right? And it leaves a lot of blame, it leaves a lot of guilt, it leaves a lot of, you know, more desire, I find, with diets. But when I use the concept of crowding out is where, you know, they stick to how they eat, but I tell them, okay, why don't you, instead of making, you know, 2/3 of your portion all meat protein, why don't you make it half, you know? And then after they transition a half, then they start making it only a third. And so little by little, you're kind of like, you know, crowding out, you know, you're eating more fiber, you're eating more, you know, nuts and seeds and beans and legumes, that you actually feel more satiated, you know, fuller, and, you know, you don't really feel the need to be able to, you know, want to go towards that. So that's how my transition has been. I transitioned around like 2014 or so.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Colin. We're at the end of our meeting time, so we really appreciate having you with us here today. Thank you for your time and your expertise as well. And if anybody has any questions, I do have contact information for him on the slideshow. So if anybody wants to get in touch with him, let me know. I have information to do that.
Yeah. I just wanna, you know, give yourself a round of applause, because honestly, you know, for you guys to be able to come together on a common interest of furthering and making yourself a more healthful state of mind, body, you know, emotionally and mentally, you're able to effectively and positively affect others around you. So in a way, you guys are all leading and co-leading with each other. And that's a huge thing. It really is. If we were able to have this nationwide, you know, in different communities, and have an area where people can come together like this, you know, just think about the different positive changes, you know, might not be as hard and as difficult because everyone else is doing it together. So you guys deserve definitely, you know, a big pat on the back, and I appreciate you guys. So I appreciate you guys inviting me out.
Thank you.
Thank you, Colin. Have a great afternoon.
Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. I'll have the recording and I'll be able to share it with, Cheryl. And yeah, definitely just keep doing what you guys are doing.
All right, and we look forward to seeing some of your podcasts coming up too.
Oh, yeah. Thank you for that. All right, guys, you have a great weekend, okay? Take care.
Bye-bye.